Welcome to the Cryos webinar series. My name is Beatrice and I'm Sales and Customer Care Consultant at Cryos International Sperm and Egg Bank. This webinar is part of the Cryos webinar series. The series consists of educational videos which we hope will help you throughout your fertility journey. Today's webinar is called How to Order Donor Sperm. In this webinar, I will guide you through the different steps of placing an order at cryosinternational.com, and I will also talk a little bit about the different things that you need to consider when ordering donor sperm. The agenda of today's webinar will take you through the different steps that you see on the screen and what you need to be aware of when placing an order. We'll talk a little bit about the process of ordering donor sperm. Then we'll touch about what motility is and when and how much sperm to order. We'll get around to reserving straws for later use, prices and payment, shipping and delivery, and then lastly, I will talk a little bit about what a quota reservation is. But first, let's talk a little bit about the process of ordering donor sperm. You can create an account by logging onto cryosinternational.com. This is completely free of charge. And once you've registered online, you will have free access to our online donor catalog. By filtering the donor search with your personal preferences, you'll be able to hopefully find your favorite sperm donor. And once you've found him, then you can add as many straws as you wish to either an order or a reservation. The next step will take you to purchasing the donor sperm and then the checkout, which is easy peasy. Next, I would like to introduce Bjørn from the Cryos lab. He will tell you more about the motility and why the motility of the sperm is important to consider when ordering donor sperm. So take it away, Bjørn.
Thank you, Beatrice. And welcome to all. I'm Bjørn. I'm the laboratory head in Aarhus, our Aarhus department. I possess a master's degree in chemistry, so I'm a bit out of my field here, but I will try to answer the questions nonetheless. And one of the larger questions we actually get is how to measure sperm quality. How do you do it, and what is motility even? Well, motility is actually just shorthand for sperm motility. Sperm motility is measured in two different kinds of ways. We measure the overall concentration of all the sperm cells in the sample, and then we measure, the activity of each sperm cell, which we divide into four categories: A, B, C, and D cells. A cells are they are really rapid and fast-going. They're like the upper achievers in the class. And then we have the B cells, which is like the middle, that's like 60% of all cells. And then we have the C cells, which are hardly moving at all. And then D cells, some say D for dead, but they are not dead, they're just not moving. So that's the way we define it. And how do we actually measure this? Well, for today's standard, we're using an automation program which is named CASA, which we use to standardize that everybody is measured the same thing on the same picture. In the older days, we actually did it by hand. So we looked into microscope and then we counted by hand how many cells are in this cell and in this cell, and then we divided by the total number of cells we counted to see the motility of the sample. But if you actually look at what influences the sperm quality, you have to look at the man or the person which donates. Since the sperm is a biological feature, it also depends on the biological response that will say how well you treat your body. And that's everything from how active you are in your everyday life, what you eat, what you drink, and if you smoke. And also one large contributor is the the heat or the heat exposure of the testicles. If you are very fond of a sauna or warm, long baths, then you may experience what should we call it? temporary decrease in sperm activity. Great. And when with that out of the way, we can finally talk about something of the more interesting and some of the more compelling features towards you is when should you order and how much sperm should you order? Well, if you get the practical out of the way first, when should you order? With our courier, we always deliver with express. So you could, if you live in the European countries, you should expect the delivery within 1 to 3 days. If you're living outside of Europe, it's 2 to 5 work days, not counting the weekends, of course. And looking on how much sperm you should order. Well, for IUI treatment, you should order just 1 straw of IUI, either the concentration mod10, mod20, or mod30, in regards to what your fertility clinic advise you to order. If we are looking at IFF or ICSI treatment, those are more specific treatments, and they actually only require to order a IUI straw at the quality mod5. You could also order a mod10, mod20, or mod30. It will basically do the same thing, but it will be a lot, less expensive fertility treatment for you to order simply the mod5, since you are only looking for a small amount of sperm cells. If you're looking towards ICI treatment, you can use either ICI straws or IUI straws. That depends entirely on what your fertility clinic will advise you to do. Yeah, that's about it. That's what I have. Back to you, Beatrice.
Thank you so much for explaining this, Bjørn. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about reserving straws for later use. At Cryos, you have the possibility to purchase and store sperm in a reservation depot at our facilities. The procedure is the same as when you place a normal order. However, instead of choosing a shipping date, you choose a period you wish to have the sample stored for. At Cryos, we recommend reserving straws for later use. This way you avoid the stress of your preferred donor being sold out or being inactive. You should consider this if you're going to have future treatments, and especially this should be considered if you are thinking of having genetic siblings. We at Cryos recommend that you reserve straws when you make your order to be shipped to the clinic. How many straws you wish to reserve is completely up to you, as you can always add more straws to a reservation, as this will be merged to the original reservation stored with Cryos. Once your reservation has been processed by our lab, you can access it online and make any amendments that you wish for, such as renewing the reservation period, delivery of the reserved straws to your clinic. It could be a partial or a full refund in terminating the reservation. And please remember also that at Cryos, we offer a 75% buyback guarantee for any unused straws that are still stored with us. Now let's talk a little bit about the prices and the payment. The price can vary due to different factors, such as the donor profile. There's a difference in the price whether your donor has a basic profile or an extended profile, and if he's an ID release donor or a non-ID release donor. The price will also vary in the sperm straws, whether it's a motility 5 or a motility 30+ straw. If your donor has adult photos added to his profile, this will also have an effect on the price. You could also want to have a donor with donor exclusivity. Now, we've talked about donor exclusivity in our last webinar, webinar number 4, on how to choose a sperm donor. So if you do not know about donor exclusivity, I invite you to check out this webinar. And for some orders, a quota reservation will be added automatically. And I will talk a little bit more about quota reservations later on in this webinar. The price will also depend on the shipping of the donor sperm. And again, I will also come back to this a little later on. If it's a reservation that you're making, well, then the reservation fee will also be applied depending on the period that you choose to have the straws stored for. If you're a man wishing to have a personal private storage at Cryos, then the price of the storage period and the price of the sperm quality analysis and other tests will be applied. At Cryos, you can pay with all major credit cards, or you can pay by bank transfer. So let's talk a little bit about shipping and delivery. When should you order, and is there a deadline? At Cryos, we recommend that you order as early as possible. We can always change and accommodate the shipping date to when you will have your treatment. We also know that sometimes things can change radically, and then the order has to be shipped very fast. And to this, we can do same-day shipments as long as we receive the order by 12 noon Danish time. The delivery time depends on where you live in the world. Within the EU, the normal delivery time is between 1 to 3 working days. And if you live outside the EU, it can go up to 5 to 7 working days, depending on how fast it goes through customs. And this is something, if you live outside of the EU, something that you should talk to a local customs agent about or local authorities. The prices depends on the shipping methods. The shipping methods at Cryos, we have 2. One is the dry ice box, and there are 2 different sizes. There's a 3-day dry ice box, which keeps the sperm straws frozen for 3 days, or the 5-day box that keeps the straws frozen for up to 5 days. We also have nitrogen tanks, also known as dry shippers, and I'll get back to that. This 2 nitrogen tanks, there's a 7-day tank, which can keep the straws frozen for up to 7 days, and there's a 12-day tank that can keep the straws frozen for up to 12 days. They're called dry shippers as we do not ship the straws in tanks with liquid nitrogen in them. So what we do is that the tanks are filled up with liquid nitrogen, and then they're cooled down for up to 48 hours. They're then emptied, and a canister with the straws is then introduced. A lid is put on, it is sealed, and then packed in the yellow casings, and then picked up by the courier services. We ship the sperm with professional couriers such as UPS and DHL. And lastly, I would like to talk to you about quota reservation. What is a quota reservation? Well, in some countries, a quota reservation is mandatory. And you'll see that when you're placing your order or making a reservation, that this will be added automatically to the order. A quota reservation is also a pregnancy slot, and it is your guarantee that you can use this donor while you're having treatment or while your straws are reserved without having to wonder if the donor will reach his limit for registered pregnancies. The price of a quota reservation depends on whether the donor is an ID release donor or a non-ID release donor. In the event that you get pregnant by the donor, the quota reservation will be converted into a pregnancy. If you are not pregnant and you wish to shift to another donor and you have no straws left and there are no embryos stored, you can seek 100% refund of the quota reservation, no questions asked. This can be made online by accessing your Cryos account and clicking on the little box where it says quota reservations. And this concludes the webinar for today. I want to thank you for participating in this Cryos webinar. And if you have any questions with regards to what you've seen today, you are welcome to contact us either on telephone, by our chat, or by email. Thank you.